Before we begin, I'd like to state that in the interest of public and staff safety, the town of Monument is currently following the CDC and Governor Polis's recommendation of less than 10 people in the boardroom. Last week, the planning department posted the plan for a hybrid planning commission meeting tonight, which included the public's ability to view each project in our documents on demand portal and to email in questions about each project. Additionally, similar to the Board of Trustees meetings, the public may attend the meeting via registration with our WebEx software. These instructions were also available on the town's website and on the various social media outlets. The Planning Commission's role is to conduct public hearings and to make recommendations for the Board of Trustees about land use matters in the town of Monument. Agendas and packet materials for this meeting are available on the town's website. Planning Commission bylaws are also on the website. Should anyone wish to become a planning commissioner or alternate, you may find an application on the town's website as well. Each commissioner here agrees to a non-partial, objective, and fair review. Should any of these commissioners wish to disqualify himself for any conflicts of personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight, please say so now. Hearing none. For those who are attending tonight's public hearing via WebEx, please ensure that you raise your hand in WebEx and speak directly to the commission so you can be heard. To ensure a timely and fair hearing, we ask that if multiple people have the same comment, only one person speak on that same subject. Once the public hearing portion is closed, the applicant or staff will be offered an opportunity to provide rebuttal. The commission may also ask additional questions at that time. I will then close the public comment session and the commission will deliberate and discuss the proposal. Thank you, and this concludes my introduction, and we will begin with the roll call.
Commissioner Sean White.
Present.
Commissioner Steve King.
Here.
Commissioner Martin Trujillo.
Present.
Co-Chairman Chris Wilhelmi.
Here.
Chairman Daniel Orrs.
Here.
And I'm going to check online. I believe Eric Light, Commissioner Eric Light, are you online? I guess not. Okay, just making sure. Okay, so I could say he's present. And we have a quorum.
This time to pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic that stands one nation, under civil. Requesting approval of the previous Planning Commission meeting on September the 9th.
So I have a comment on the minutes before we make approval for that.
Sure.
So I don't really think that the minutes convey the spirit of the conversation that we had totally. And I get that you have a paragraph to do that in. And so I'm not going to make a big deal about it, but on the second paragraph where it says the commissioners all then discuss further items such as the planning commission having the right to say no to projects based on zoning changes they don't feel are necessary. I'd really like to change that word to appropriate. Otherwise, I don't have anything else to add.
Staff will change that and send it to you for your approval.
Thank you.
Any
Oh,
other?
yeah, there is one other comment. In these minutes, can we put a link to the YouTube site so to view the meetings?
Yep, that's a
so
good
that the
idea.
public
We
could see
can do that.
And that
Yep.
way, if they have any questions, they can just watch the meeting for themselves.
Any other comments? Okay, looking for approval as amended.
I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes as amended.
Here's second.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public hearing and recommendations. Point out during the public hearing that the staff will make a presentation, and then there will be a time for commissioners to ask staff questions.
We're going to do we prefer to do staff's presentation than applicant's presentation because the applicant might
Yes,
answer.
didn't I say staff?
You just said after staff's presentation, not after the applicant's presentation.
Well.
Yeah.
Staff's presentation and then questions by the commissioner.
No, it'll be staff, then the applicant, then questions.
Oh.
Yeah. Because the applicant
Okay,
might
that's
answer
fine,
questions
that's fine,
during their
that's fine,
presentation.
That's
Yeah.
fine. And then following that, we'll open it up for a public hearing. The public will be able to make comments. Then I'll close the public hearing. Responses will be made accordingly to the public comments. Commissioners will then have questions. And then we will then look for the appropriate motion. This time I'll open up the public hearing for the staff to make the presentation.
Can I make one quick interruption? So, my wife generally watches these meetings online, and she just sent me a text that says that the URL is bad. I don't know if you can check into that or not. Okay, awesome. I'll do that.
It's a request for approval of Falcon Commerce Center Phase 1 Preliminary Plan Development Site Plan. The project location is south of Baptist Road, west of I-25, and north of the U.S. Air Force Academy, specifically north-northwest side of the property adjacent to Baptist Road and Woodcarver Road. The site is 32 acres in size. Falcon Commerce Center Phase 1 Preliminary PD Site Plan Proposed Uses and Setbacks. The proposed uses for lots 1 through 6, which is 12.31 acres inside, provides commercial, office, and medical uses. Lot 7 is approximately 17 acres in size, which it has a warehouse distribution as its use. The setbacks for this site is 25-foot setback on Baptist Road, 20-foot building setback adjacent to Santa Fe Trail, 20-foot setback on internal collector streets, and there's a 100-foot maximum building height. The 2017 Monument Comprehensive Plan shows this site as commercial centers, which is likely to generate a high number of vehicle trips, promotes uses that provides goods and services for region that traveling public, provides a transition from heavily traveled main thoroughfares to residential neighborhoods. The comp plan also shows this site as light industrial, which is suitable for small office, contractor trades, small-scale fabrication, and warehouses. Accommodates smaller business, office, research, and development space that require the distribution of goods by cargo, vans, and smaller trucks. Lastly, the comprehensive plan shows this site as parks, recreation, and trails, which has the Santa Fe Trail along this site. Access points. The primary access is off Baptist Road via Terrazzo Drive. The secondary access is west onto Woodcarver Road via Squadron Drive. Traffic concerns. A traffic signal at Baptist Road Terrazzo Drive will be warranted by 2025 for the development of this and for other projects in the area. Project phasing. access roads and utility extensions, grading of overall property north of Jackson Creek, construct and centralize detention pond in Area E from the approved sketch PD plan. This facility will provide detention and water quality treatment for the developed area north of Jackson Creek. The next slide shows are the referrals reviewed and commented on the project. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends approval of Falcon Commerce Center Phase 1 preliminary PD site plan based on the staff report findings that the proposed development complies with all standards and criteria for approval. Next, our applicant Andrea Barlow from NES will be presenting her portion of tonight's presentation.
Good evening, Planning Commission. First of all, I'd like to thank you for holding this special meeting. We had hoped to get to the September 9th hearing, but there was a little bit of a snafu on the processing side. So we really appreciate your willingness to hold this meeting and keep us on track for our original board hearing schedule. So Falcon Commerce Center, Phase 1 preliminary PD plan. No, it's not. Oh, there we go. Anyway, Debbie's already kind of indicated where the site is. It's our first phase, 32 acres of the overall 214-acre Falcon Commerce Center sketch plan, just south of Baptist Road. Oh, a bit too quickly there. Yeah, I think it is. So just to recap, we were before you a couple of months ago with this sketch plan. It was approved by the Planning Commission or recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. I think it was a 4-1 vote. And then it was approved unanimously by the Board of Trustees on August 17th, 2020. So the area that we're actually looking at is the entirety of Area A, the approximately 12.3 acres there, which was shown originally for commercial, medical and office. And then a portion, about 17 acres of the Area C, which was identified for a range of uses, one of which was warehouse and distribution. So the proposed uses and standards that we are bringing forward into this preliminary PD site plan are entirely consistent with the sketch plan and the new zoning that was established at the time. I have to point to press. The proposed uses, lots 1 to 6. I just want to add here that this is a preliminary plan, so this lot configuration for the commercial area is, I would say, just generally illustrative at the moment. It could change. We don't anticipate more than 6 lots. It could be less. You know, there may be a larger use may come in and consolidate some of those lots. And the uses that we're looking at there are the commercial medical office consistent with the sketch plan. And then, as I noted before, lot 7 is a proposed warehouse distribution use, and that is consistent with the sketch plan, and we don't anticipate that lot changing. Our setbacks are to Baptist Road 25 feet and Santa Fe Trail 20 feet. And as Debbie noted, we have also internal setbacks on the commercial on the collector streets, with a maximum building height of 100 feet per the sketch plan and zoning that was approved. We're not proposing to change that, although we wouldn't anticipate the uses on this and either of these parcels getting close to that maximum height. Okay, sorry. Come on. Thank you. Yes. So we are taking our primary access off Baptist Road via an extension of Terrazzo Drive. It currently just stops at the edge of the at the southern edge of the pilot, and we will be extending that to a new intersection with Squadron Drive, which is our east-west connection. See, this map is turned on its side. North is to the left-hand side of the plan. And the Squadron Drive will connect to Woodcarver, and there will need to be some improvements on Woodcarver for the Squadron Road access. That is kind of in evolution, I would say, because the right-of-way doesn't extend all the way to that access currently, and the right-of-way is currently El Paso County. And I know there are discussions between the town and the county about annexing that in, and simultaneously not simultaneously, but concurrent discussions with the property to the south, who actually owns the private part of Woodcarver about annexing into the town. So who we're actually going to be dealing with those improvements and to whose standards, we're not quite sure yet, but we do understand that that will have to be improved. As Debbie mentioned, signalization of Baptist and Terrazzo is going to be required in the near future, and that will be paid for in conjunction with the other developments that are adjacent to that intersection and will be using that intersection. And we are also proposing a right in, right out onto Baptist Road via the existing curb cut that's there into the site at present. So the comprehensive plan, the future land uses there are commercial centre and light industrial, and we can meet the general use intent for those areas. And then also a number of policies that were consistent with, as we were with the sketch plan, which is encouraging a wider array of land use, mixed uses, focusing, capitalizing on the I-25 interchanges and having highway-oriented businesses in those locations, all of which this is consistent with. So the preliminary PD site plan review criteria, there's some of these that really aren't triggered by this project. There really aren't any natural features in this part of the site. We address that with the overall sketch plan with Jackson Creek, and obviously we'll address it again when we get down to that part of the site. And we don't really have any trail connections other than sidewalk connection to the Santa Fe Trail at this point, but we are providing a variety of development and mixed land use, and we have the appropriate land uses between areas internally and externally. And the road system that we're providing will provide adequate capacity and connectivity. And the phasing plan, as was noted, we are providing the centralized detention facility on the just north of Jackson Creek Parkway, which will serve the entirety of that northern section of the site that will be constructed with this phase. And utility services will be provided as well with this phase to serve this part of the development. And as noted, next slide, sorry. In summary, I just say we're consistent with the recently approved PD zoning and sketch plan, consistent with the comprehensive plan, land use designations and policies, and also we satisfy the relevant preliminary PD site plan review criteria. So I wanted to keep it short and sweet for you, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
If you can go back a slide,
Sure.
just to mention, are we only hitting on the underlined ones, like the plan design and layout are innovative?
Yeah,
and
so
creative?
I just underlined the ones which we are actually focusing on for this preliminary plan. We don't actually have any detailed design or architecture with these plans. We don't have any vertical construction, so it's one of those situations where the criteria are not quite in line with what we're asked to prepare and submit for the preliminary plan right now. So that's a little bit more detail than we would usually go into. That will be addressed with certainly with the final PD site plans for any development.
Yeah, so is the purpose of this then just to establish where the road connections are going to be?
Primarily, yes, and to then facilitate the ability to plat those. So there's a process where you go sketch plan, preliminary plan, final PD site plan, but there's also final plat, and we can't final plat without the preliminary plan. So we will need to establish where those road connections are and be able to plat them to be able to construct the streets.
So is I forget what the name of this street is.
Squadron, Terrazzo?
Squadron, right.
Yeah.
So Squadron, that's the old Denver Road. That's the road that goes to the wastewater plant. Is that what that is?
It follows, it broadly follows that alignment. It's not quite the same. It's generally in that alignment, but it's not exactly the same.
So then, but that won't take up two crossings then?
No, it won't, because we only have the one crossing of the Santa Fe Trail at that point for this development. And I think, as we noted in the sketch plan, we actually are entitled to 3. There is one with the wastewater, and so the intent is the road to the wastewater facility will continue as the gravel road that is there now, with a connection from the end of Terrazzo. And we are intending to, what's the word I'm looking for? Incorporate the parking area that is the kind of unofficial parking area that is county-owned property that crosses the trail right now, instead of that crossing the trail, because that's very close to our entrance point off of Woodcarver, that would come off Squadron instead.
Okay.
So there wouldn't be like a dual crossing point there.
All right. And then, so who pays for the road improvements on Woodcarver and any that would be needed on Baptist?
So the developer of this project will be responsible for any improvements on Woodcarver to bring it up to relevant standards, whether they be the towns or the counties. And the Baptist Road improvements are, we are having to provide a right turn lane into the property from Baptist Road, so that those improvements will be on the developer. And then any improvement, as we indicated, the signalization is going to be a shared responsibility.
Right. So then that, I think I heard you correctly on Baptist. That's right in and right out.
There will be, there's two access points effectively. The one that's already established at Terrazzo, where we will have to construct a right turn lane to into the site from there. But prior to that, there will be the right in, right out where the existing curb cut is. Yeah.
Okay. And then I have a question for you, Debbie. So the 25-foot setbacks would that be consistent with a project like this?
Yes, that's consistent with what was discussed in the sketch plan.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. One of the questions I have right off the hand here is when we talk about setback, you mentioned the 20-foot setback from the road to the actual facilities. How do you plan on obstructing the view of the buildings, or what is that design that you're looking at in relation to keeping it in context with the community here in Monument?
Well, we're not really at the vertical design stage yet, but certainly I think I mentioned this when we did the sketch plan, there are specific, we have recorded CC&Rs and design standards for the Falcon Commerce Center, all of which will control the building design, landscaping, fencing, everything like that, and other design elements. So it is pretty strictly controlled, and that will be vetted before any project comes forward.
Perfect. Thank you. And last question. You mentioned the plats when they are projected. Do you have an idea, obviously, for the community, a idea when those plats will be coming up for each one of these zones as they come online?
I can give you a rough idea of the immediate for this phase. I mean, we're working on the plat right now, which
Yes,
is going to be primarily for the roads. That is the develop because I work on behalf of the owner, who is like the initial developer, and then each parcel will subsequently be sold to the end user.
Yes, ma'am.
And they will be coming forward at different times. But there is one that is in progress right now, so that will be coming forward. I think that was just the first final PD site plan, and final plat for that A parcel has been submitted to the town. But
Sure.
in terms of future phases, it's a little bit unpredictable now. It really depends on when the end user is contracted and so on.
Okay. No, and I'm just wanting to try and get an idea when those plats come up. One, not only is the public aware of those, but at least they have the or they can actually see those prior to coming to the meeting, and then can voice those opinions if they have any in concurrence with
I mean,
those.
we have a posting requirement. So there aren't that many neighbors. We have to go 500 feet. So it's not a bigger pile as I usually have, but we have an affidavit we have to sign, do for mailing and posting of the site. And we send out certified mailing for any project that comes to hearing. So yeah, the public are made aware insofar as we are required to make them aware per the code. And it's also advertised in the press as well.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Thank you.
That's the process, yeah.
Okay.
But I do see the actual phasing of this project going for many years.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Andrea.
Hello.
I'm actually looking at lot 7, the proposed warehousing. And is it just those 2 access points on the north side to Squadron Drive that gives ingress and egress?
Yes, that's right. They're not proposing any access directly onto Woodcarver. They will be taking their access off Squadron and then distribute primarily towards Baptist and Terrazzo, but they also have the option of going out onto Woodcarver to the roundabout.
Okay. And what would the type of traffic then be? Would you envision like 18-wheelers, heavy?
There could be some,
Trucks.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there could be some large vehicles.
I'm just trying to envision them coming out and going out to Woodcarver and then navigating through the roundabout.
I would anticipate if there are larger vehicles, they'll probably go to the
Go up to Terrazzo.
yes, to the signalized intersection. That's what I was trying to say, and then maybe smaller vehicles would go in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All right, those are the only questions I have.
Okay, thanks.
Can we put the map up, please? Just for me, I'm having a hard time reading this until I get my real glasses on the 29th. These dollar store glasses aren't doing very well. Squadron, is that road that runs beneath?
Between the red and the blue area is Squadron. So you've got to bear in mind that this is oriented the wrong way, effectively. So North Baptist is to the left of the screen. And
Baptist is
if
on
you
the
see the
left.
roundabout at the bottom left-hand corner, that's the roundabout for Old Denver Road and Baptist Road. So Baptist Road is on the, could you point, Debbie? Thank you. So that's Baptist.
That's Baptist. Oh.
The entire drawing is rotated.
It's rotated, so
Yeah, it
it's,
had me all confused. What's that?
North is to the left.
Yeah.
so the
Okay, that's why I was asking.
north is that way. And then the top corner is the pilot. So that's the existing pilot. So it's between the pilot and the roundabout.
Okay. So the in and out for Baptist Road is where that indentation is? Is that what that is?
Okay. Well, not quite. So the right and right out is actually well side. And the right and right.
Now that right in and right out, the purpose is to serve what, just that one lot?
No, development, and there would be cross access easements throughout this area. We're not quite sure how that lot. It will be
Okay. Okay. Now, the other question I have, you're indicating that the primary entrance is going to be up by the pilot, right?
Yes.
And then the secondary is at Squadron.
Yes,
Now,
Squadron. Yeah.
That secondary, is that expected to serve the public in general, or is that going to be expected to just serve vehicles going in to do business in there?
No, that will be a public right of way. The roads throughout the site will be public right of way, and there will be public access. So anybody going into this center, commercial center, Falcon Commerce Center, will be able to use either access point.
Able to use either one.
So it's not just for business associated traffic. It's a public access.
Do you expect a high amount of access?
No, we expect the vast majority to come through Baptist and Terrazzo, but there are people who live to the west and who may want to come in that direction or from the north. I would anticipate it being primarily used for the businesses that are operating.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked.
But it's not going to be exclusive.
Pardon me?
It's not going to be exclusively for
Not
that.
gonna
They
be
will be public
exclusive.
streets. So
And then there's going to be one more at some point in time, right?
one more.
Access over the trail.
No, this is it for this project.
No, but I mean in the future.
No. No, so this is the only access over the trail we're proposing through this development.
Oh, so you're not going to use all three?
No, no.
No, I think he's
that-
talking about down the line.
Yeah,
Fe-
down the line, our sketch
feature.
plan, if I can you go back to the slide with the sketch plan? That one, yeah. So as you can see, we are only proposing the Squadron Drive access to cross the trail. The Terrazzo will continue to the south and will terminate, and that will not be accessing back onto the trail, across the trail, because there's nowhere to access to. There's no roads that go down there.
Okay, just make sure I'm clear. So out of the three that you are authorized, you're only going to use two?
Yes, really, because we're using one for Squadron, and the second one is the existing access to the wastewater
That's correct.
facility, and we're not changing that. That's going to remain.
Yeah, and I put the emphasis on that because crossings over that trail is a big issue with everybody. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the only reason I'm asking that question.
Yeah, and the wastewater facility plant crossing is not really heavily used. It's just a gravel access road, and it will probably stay in that form.
And we could even say that this development isn't adding any crossings because those crossings already exist today with
Yeah,
gravel
we're kind of
access.
consolidating. I would say though that obviously Squadron is going to be a little bit more heavily used than the current one, but
Sure.
it's similar location, and it's fairly close to the Baptist Road roundabout. So the flow of the trail is already interrupted fairly closely.
Yep.
So Andrea, is this lot 7? Does this have a letter of intent on it right now?
It does, yes.
Okay, so it's pretty well anticipated that that will be warehouse space.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
Can you just go back to the map again?
This one?
Yeah. And so what's depicted in the right-hand corner, is that Squadron, that access, or is that, this is a separate access?
I'm not sure.
I'm a little confused, like where in the map is the upper right-hand depiction of that Santa Fe Trail crossing?
Oh, so that's right here.
Right there, okay. And that feeds Squadron, right? Okay. So I'm not familiar with that area. Is it, as far as right now, that Squadron Road exists?
No,
That
no.
does not
So
exist.
there
Okay.
is a
Got it. Got it. Okay.
there is some discussion between the county and the town
Right.
area, but that's not really in my wheelhouse. So
And in regards to that crossing, I had mentioned this in prior meetings, any thought of like yielding to pedestrians, signage, like what can be done given the amount of possibly new visitors or people who are not familiar with the trail and the traffic that might be on that trail, give them warning?
so that crossing has been designed in coordination with El Paso County Parks Department to meet their requirements, and it will be there will be flashing lights and signs for pedestrian crossing, and it is state law to yield to pedestrians. So it is it's just a case of making sure that the crossing is actually well identified and marked and has the required signal. So it will be a kind of a flashing signal when there are pedestrians approaching.
Do you know, will that area be illuminated at night by street lamps or otherwise?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure about that. We will be providing, we are required to provide street lights on the public streets. And but the location of them hasn't been determined at this point.
And then any pavements or anything that, whether they would line Baptist or Razzo?
Yeah, so there will be a sidewalk. I think there is an existing sidewalk on
I
Baptist,
think there is. but I can't
and
remember.
along Terrazzo, Terrazzo and Squadron will be required to provide a sidewalk in context of the town's standards for those streets.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
One more question, just great questions. My concern is there consideration for parking for those that utilize that Santa Fe Trail in any one of the zones in the future, area C, E, F, and D? I mean, is there consideration with the project that we got for parking for those individuals with the volume of individuals that are probably going to start using that Santa Fe Trail as we grow? Is there consideration for parking for that Santa Fe Trail?
Well, as I noted, that area that is currently used as a trailhead parking will be retained as that and kind of formalized as that. There isn't really the opportunity to provide. Obviously, each site will have to provide parking to meet the requirements of its use, but there is no road access further south to the site. So the Woodcarver terminates at the lot that is just south of the blue area, and it's a private road. So there's no way of getting any further south with a vehicle to warrant providing a trailhead there, if that makes sense.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I will then open up the public hearing for the public. Do we have any hands? Oh, we have present, some present and accounted for.
Hey, not used to this. My name is Robert Delacrosse. I own a ranch in the area. And this parcel here is mine. The only access is right here in this corner. And I normally access off of the dirt road. I don't see any plans to bring that access out to this new road.
Okay, just make note and we'll answer that after we get the rest of the public comments, please. Pardon me? Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just ask you one question before you put the mic away. So do you not have access now from Woodcarver or Baptist Road?
No, you go down Woodcarver and turn on the dirt road that goes down to the water treatment plant. They took away the one on the north end when they put in the roundabout. I had one at each end. That used to be the original county road. And we did a trade for the trail. They gave me the old road. We gave them area for the trail. That's where my two entrances were. And then when they did the roundabout, they took away the north one. So the only one to that lot is on the south side.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
I believe the other gentleman wanted to be recognized.
Duncan Bremer, I have a parcel over here. This is mine. And I think it sounds like a really good plan, but I think this is absolutely critical that somehow where the trail goes and the access to Bob Delacrosse's property be made clear. Also, this is the access to the Pioneer Sand, and it looks like this is an offset. So somehow I think you have to deal with that offset. Likely the Pioneer Sand access may have to be changed to be so that this isn't a crazy intersection. And by the way, Pioneer Sand runs a lot of large trucks through the roundabout back both directions. So I think we will see some large trucks coming in and out here. And this has got to be worked out as a very positive intersection this may have to have a good right turn lane in and out, a left turn lane in and out. I think that needs good study by a good traffic engineer because we're going to see more there. And not only that, but Bob owns the stuff between here and the railroad tracks and all the way up to Baptist. He owns the place where Pioneer is. And so this could eventually get developed as commercial, and that ought to be taken into consideration when the traffic planning is done for this intersection. This may be a pretty important intersection.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any hands online? Do not. Okay. Seeing none, then I will close the public hearing and I'll ask Andrea if you. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let Andrea respond to the comments. Well, you can ask her the questions.
I
after
believe he's
she's made her
closing the public
presentation.
comment.
Yeah.
There is another gentleman online with their hand raised to ask to talk.
Well, hold it. I'll reopen the public hearing.
Comment.
Public comments.
Hello, this is Peter Patton. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I am with Patton Associates, land planning consulting firm, and I'm representing Native Sun Construction this evening. And they are the triangular shaped property to the right of lot 7 on your screen there, and they own Woodcarver Road. It's a private road. And we have been in discussions with Falcon Commerce Center as well as the town about the use of Woodcarver to connect Squadron. And we have proposed that portion of Woodcarver Road, that portion of the actual parcel for that Native Sun Construction owns, be dedicated to the town of Monument so that this intersection can be constructed and move forward and be a public right-of-way. And I just wanted to make that statement so to be clear to the Planning Commission that Native Sun Construction is a player here and we're cooperating, and we will be coming in with an annexation very soon.
Anybody else with a hand up? Oh, okay, then I will close public comments and ask Andrea if we could respond to the.
Yes, well, with regard to Mr. Delacroix's comments about access to his parcel, I will have to get further information on that, and I'll make sure I do that prior to the board hearing. But as you notice that the area that is extending to the county parcel, so the red area is entirely in the ownership of Forest Lakes LLC, who are the owners of the land for the Falcon Commerce Center, and then the parcel adjacent to that is county owned. So in order to have that access, there presumably is some easement, which is the one thing I'm not sure about. So if there is an existing easement providing that access over my client's land, then there will be a requirement to continue that access through this development. And that area, that kind of red area at the end there, is not going to be really usable for a great deal in terms of development. But I would say if there is no existing easement there and there is an expectation of access over that land, then that easement needs to be secured by Mr. Delacroix through negotiations with the owner of Falcon Commerce Center. So my response is, if there is an existing easement, then it will be honored. If there isn't an existing easement, that needs to be put in place. There is no right of access if there's no easement. And I don't know what happened when I can see where the original road alignment is. You can see it on the plan, in fact, where the original Old Denver Road alignment was, which provided access to that parcel. So when that was removed, I would anticipate that some easements were put in place. But without that information, I can't comment on further than if there is an easement, it will be honored. If there isn't an easement, something needs to be put in place. Regarding the improvements to Woodcarver, as I noted previously, yes, we acknowledge that there will be need for improvements and potentially some consolidation of that access with the Pioneer gravel or some improvements to make that work. Regarding improving the road to accommodate future development to the west, that land is zoned agriculture in the county. And so there is no proposed commercial use of that property. The sand and gravel operation, landscaping operation of Pioneer is an allowed use, or I think it's a special use in the agricultural zone. So any upgrading, in additional upgrading of Woodcarver to accommodate commercial on that side would be the responsibility of that developer, that landowner, that developer when that comes forward. We would be upgrading the road to accommodate the uses anticipated on Falcon Commerce Centre and potentially any new uses that would be on the native sun side, which the gentleman previously referenced. So that would be my response to those comments.
Steve, you had a question?
Yeah. So then would you, so do you anticipate Woodcarver, the portion that you're planning on improving to get dedicated to the town?
So it is already, so it's a little complicated. So this portion is so currently this portion and as indicated by this class, they are currently annexed in the parcel. So at the moment, we have right of way that is in the county plus a private road. The end goal is to have right of way that is entirely in the county.
So then what standard would that road be built to? Would it ultimately become a public road that's?
Oh, it would become a public road built to whatever town standard the town requires to build it to. My anticipation that it will be probably a collector status or maybe something slightly less. But it will become a public street, yes, to public street standards.
All right. And then that parcel that's there now, that's the so-called makeshift parking lot, that's owned by El Paso County as well?
It is. It was a staging area for the Baptist Road improvements and the roundabout construction. So when they widened Baptist Road and built the roundabout, that was like a staging area. And since that has ceased, it's just used as an informal parking lot.
So if there's no way to make any kind of, I mean, I see what you're saying, that one little portion of that lot 6 is, there's not much you could use it for.
Yeah.
To gain access to his property, if for some reason that he and your client can't make any kind of agreement to an easement, there still is a potential for El Paso County to grant him some kind of easement across there.
There is, and it would probably line up pretty well with that lower access point where we were proposing to provide access into that parking lot opposite the westernmost access of lot 7. So that could readily go across and get into Mr. Delacroix's parcel.
Okay.
I just don't know what easements currently exist because that, like I said, that's El Paso County owned parcel. It's not right of way.
Right. Yeah, because I don't see this land as being landlocked other than you can't cross the Santa Fe Trail probably. And he's lost his access off of Baptist. I don't want to have him be completely landlocked, but
No, I mean that wouldn't be our goal either.
right.
But it's just it's a process thing. If there's existing easements, that's fine. If there's not, those easements need to be discussed and
All
put
right,
in
I
place.
appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
Is it possible to even ask Mr. Dela Rosa if he knows of any easements to reopen the public comments?
I prefer not at this point. He's made his comment. and
If
it's
I
been
might.
responded. Pardon me?
If I might, I'm not sure there's easements or not. There could be some prescriptive rights that exist, but I think in
Right.
planning this area, both the applicant as well as staff will make sure we don't landlock a parcel. And I think the alternative obviously exists, if none other, to come across that little piece of land that extends to the west along Squadron Drive.
Are you satisfied?
Yeah, well, we can talk. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
And I would just clarify that I believe that small parcel is also part of the discussion for the annexation into the town of, in the context of annexing the right of way to annex that parcel and with the native son. So there's no kind of oddment of county land between the town and, well, sandwiched between the town areas.
Okay, so just one more question, just to get kind of clear on this wood carver thing. So you're anticipating widening it to 2 lanes, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and curb and gutter on
Curb and gutter
both
and
sides
probably
or one side?
curb and gutter probably on both sides and a sidewalk on one side
Okay,
as we've got the trail on the other side. So
thank you.
there's enough right of way width there. It's just the road currently is, as you can probably see from the plan, is very offset to the west side
Right.
of that right of way, so it will change configuration.
Right, thank you.
Okay, I've got one question. I just want to get clarity with regard to Mr. Grimmer's question. There was a traffic study done that indicated it's going to be a light. Now, he had asked something about thought there ought to be a traffic study. Will there be another traffic study, or is the traffic studies that we've got going to be it?
So we did an overall traffic study for the entire sketch plan, which made assumptions, fairly conservative assumptions. So the only thing really that would trigger additional traffic analysis would be if there are specific conditions of a certain use that makes the town want to investigate certain aspects of the traffic in more detail, or if there is a use that wasn't previously anticipated in the study and would generate more trips than was originally studied.
So what I'm hearing you say then is concern with regard to the gravel vehicles and everything has been considered?
Yeah, so the traffic study measures trips. It doesn't necessarily assess the type of vehicles, because it's not really something that they can measure with the bands that they put across the street. They can to a certain point work out whether they're heavy or light vehicles. But yes, everything that was assessed for the traffic study on the sketch plan that's what we call the master traffic study. And unless something comes forward that is significantly different than those underlying assumptions, then generally speaking, an additional traffic study wouldn't be warranted. But I can let the town comment on how they would approach it.
Yeah, what we usually do is once we have that master study, when a specific development comes in, such as that blue area, we ask them to give us at least a traffic letter that says the generation of this particular use was accommodated in the original study, and that comes from a traffic engineer. So he either says yes or no. If he says no, he's going to have to present the information of any potential mitigation beyond what was previously anticipated.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Andrea, for your presentation and the answers to all the questions. At this point, I will ask the commissioners if we have a motion. Yes. How about me closing the public hearing? Okay.
Yeah, before we make a motion, let's talk about a few things.
Okay.
So on the lighter points of this, on Wood Carver Road was brought up that there's a misalignment between this proposed Squadron Road and Pioneer Sand and Gravel. Personally, I'm not concerned about that. There's not going to be any traffic really on this road for some period of time. Then that's like a driveway that goes in. So just to get that out of the way. Access to this other property is a little bit of a concern. My guess is he probably has some kind of adverse possession. I'm sure he's been accessing this for some period of time, which my guess is he could probably get it. I think it's probably in everybody's best interest to work out some type of access point. It looks like the access point right now comes to the far east of that little leg that's in there, of which, maybe that can just be moved down to be adjacent to the El Paso County property that's there. I mean, he doesn't need much of access, I don't think, but I suppose we could make that a condition that gets worked out. Otherwise, I don't really have any problem with this.
I would second Steve's point. I'm happy to move this along based on what I'm hearing with the condition of that easement, or whether it's by necessity or there's some other possessory right being worked out prior to moving forward. So I would second the condition. I would second Steve's point on having a condition as part of the approval that at least, to the very least, that this access for that landowner be worked out before moving too much further in this process.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that's an important thing to take into consideration before furthering the development and the details of this development, access to that. I think the uses for both of these, both the red and the blue, the warehouse and the commercial center, represent great consistency with the comprehensive plan. I was researching it in the comprehensive plan, and I know there's going to be a lot of traffic trips. I know traffic is often one of the big concerns that we have, but by design, a commercial center is intended to have that kind of traffic and number of trips per day. And I think if you're going to have it anywhere, that's probably an ideal place, right near your highway interchange. The one thing that I just can't bring myself to be okay with is the 100-foot height. I live up Baptist Road, and as I was coming down, I was trying to envision what a 100-foot hotel might look like sitting there. And in my view, it is grossly out of character of the feel of the town. And I know that the zoning and everything that we approved before inherently allows it. But I don't know that I can, in good conscience, say that I'm okay with it and that I believe that it represents the interests of the people of Monument. And when they write in the comprehensive plan that they want the small town feel, they want the development to reflect the character and the scale of the adjacent developments, and the fact this is right on the foothills. And I'm just trying to picture a veritable skyscraper against the backdrop of that foothill, and everything about it just seems wrong to me. So even though I know legally this could be considered a taking, I would like personally to go on record to say that I don't support it, and I would like to condition the approval to not permit 100-foot and to limit it to what I see in the town. I see 3 stories, the Fairfield Inn and YMCA. Those are pretty good scale, and they're 3 stories. And I think that represents probably the character the town is looking for. So I don't know. Does anyone disagree with that?
I
May I
see
comment?
Larry's chomping at the bits.
Yeah, the issue is not one I would recommend legally that you attach to a subsequent request of the sketch plan, which has already established that parameter. Is that understandable?
Yeah, I don't think this is a time to be bringing that up, but to just ease some of your fears there, I mean, you got the biggest lot here is going to be a warehouse. That's not going to be 100 feet. So we're talking about the property along Baptist Road, which is probably going to be more commercial on this parcel. I mean, the further south you go, it might change. You know.
Yeah, I guess the way the proposed lots are looking right now, that wouldn't accommodate much of a
I mean, she said she had a letter of intent on lot 7 for a warehouse.
Warehouse.
It's not going to be 100 feet tall.
Yeah,
The other 6 lots,
doesn't make sense.
it probably wouldn't make sense to do that there. So on this particular phase, I wouldn't be too concerned. I don't think you can ask for it as a condition. I don't think you'll get very far with it.
So Larry, you're saying if this was a concern, it ought to have been raised on the original sketch plan that rather than at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
don't
And I know
forget,
Steve did. I
The
know Steve
original
brought it up.
sketch plan was in 1980 something, for when it was PIP, and they were keeping that 100 maximum foot height from that sketch, that plan,
Mhm.
and they were legally able to keep that 100-foot maximum height, and that's why it was with the sketch plan. But they wanted to keep it. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. They just want to have it just in case, and if it does, it probably won't happen till further south, not in this area. And
Yeah.
don't forget, each of these lots will come to a final PD site plan for PC and board approval as well.
But what I'm hearing is we start to move south and we enter into lots that might have a higher likelihood of that sort of scale, that our hands are pretty much tied, even though unless we're willing to put the condition and possibly endure a legal challenge, right?
Well, yeah.
Well, I would ask even
So-
further, would it be possible to put a condition on the notification to the public, such as Upper Baptist, going up towards Fox Run, Promontory Point, those neighborhoods, to make sure they're properly notified of the planning of those areas? Right now, I think it's what, 500 feet?
We do send public notice out
Yes, ma'am.
via a Facebook or website or public notice sign and newspaper.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's up to the public to take upon themselves to view these items out the town puts out. In our code is only a 500-foot radius, and it's up to a resident who's not in the 500-foot radius to take initiative living in a town like everyone else does living in a town,
Sure.
to know about our public notice signs and our newspaper and our website and our Facebook and our Instagram. And everyone's on that nowadays, as you all know from past next door comments and
Sure.
whatnot. So we do post more than the 500-foot radius to the entire town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
I thought I heard you about to say something, Larry.
I would suggest you think deeply into the connotations of the word challenge.
Can you elaborate?
What format would you think that would take?
A legal challenge? Is that what you're?
That's what I'm inferring.
Right. But even so, referencing the comprehensive plan and the concern, there is a basis at least to say 100-foot building and 99-foot building does not fit monument in any way, shape, or form. And, looking at the general plan, that's not consistent. I mean, I understand legal challenges for sure, but the idea of, the developer or someone else coming back and saying, no, we're going to demand that we have our 80, 90, 100 foot, even though it's highly unlikely, we're going to demand it, seems, unless they really have something, it would seem like a wasted exercise or effort. So I'm kind of curious.
Don't forget, 100-foot building is very, very expensive.
I get it, but this is
And
good
this
real
is an
estate.
area by the I-25. Would a very, very expensive building want to be near the interstate? Just
Well,
hypothetically, just to take
Look
it
at
in that
the
context.
DTC, you got that whole corridor, right? So it can happen for sure. And I wouldn't put it past anyone who's looking at that as, I don't see hotel here. I do see office building. I guess, I share that concern. I think it's a reasonable concern. And I'm wondering what else can be said in terms of, I know we're not at the use stage, but it sounds like it doesn't matter in regards to the 100-foot, even if the final PD site plan has a 99-foot building on it, legally it's still fine, right? So how in the world could then, now we're at almost a final stage, put the brakes on that and say, you know what, that doesn't fit the mold.
You can't, then it'll be like what's indirectly said, a legal matter.
Right.
So 100-foot maximum height was approved with the sketch plan, and we have to abide by that.
I get that, but there's the tension between what was approved in the sketch plan and then also the comprehensive, general plan, like by which the citizens of Monument have spoken. So that tension needs to be resolved, and that's usually, it's either never going to happen or in practice it actually never happens. 3 stories is about where the building size needs to be.
Keep in mind, though, if Monument didn't annex his property, El Paso County would have that say, and it would be the same result.
The same result of,
Well, it had 100-foot. It had a 100-foot use on it before Monument annexed it. So
it's monuments, right?
It's Monument. It's in the town of Monument now, but
Right.
before Monument annexed it, it was in El Paso County and still had that right. So if Monument didn't annex it, it would still be the same property in the same place with the same rights.
Sure, but I mean, right now we have it and we're considering it, right?
Right.
So
Right. No, I express your concern, and look, I don't really care what anybody says, yeah, we're not going to do this or that. Look, I get it. If somebody made them an offer and said, we want all these 6 lots and we're going to put a 100-foot building on there, that's what's going to go there.
a gorgeous office building. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Do I think it's likely? Probably not, but it could happen.
Mhm.
It can.
Yeah.
And that same tension, are you talking about when the sketch plan was approved 23 July 2020? Or are you talking historically?
Historically, it was 100 feet, and they kept it as 100 feet because they were legally allowed to keep it as 100 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
And so at any point in this process, whether it was July 23rd now or in the future, there's that legal right. Yep. Well, all I know is there's lots of legal precedents for comprehensive plan being enforced, and a collective town being able to say no, that is inconsistent with our views in the comprehensive plan. So I'm just going on record right now saying that's a concern for me. I don't think that it needs to be particularly on this particular development. I don't see it being viable. So I'm not saying that should be a condition now, but as we see this develop further south, this could become a concern that I may end up raising and conditioning at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But as far as
let's talk. We'll talk after this is over, and so we're not holding everybody up. But
Sure.
we can maybe brainstorm that a little bit.
Sure. But all the other recommendations about conditions, I think are awesome.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we need a motion, and what I've heard in this discussion is actually there's a definite condition that wants to be placed on the motion, and then there's a questionable condition that needs to be placed on the motion. Now, Sean indicated we could wait till another time, but as somebody said, if somebody decided they wanted to build a 100-foot building on what we see in the red right now, it might happen. I would certainly, there's legal aspect to everything, and I got a lawyer sitting to my left, so he knows the legal aspect. But our trustees can work with the developer, can express to the developer what the concerns of this commission is and what our comprehensive plan is, and see if some arrangements can be made to reduce that 100 feet. But if we don't ask the question to the trustees, and that's in fact what we do when we put a condition, we're asking a question to the trustees, will you go along with what we've asked? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Having said that, if somebody can put together a motion.
Mm-hmm. Well, I could put together a motion, but I'm assuming you're talking about the height. Yes. So my recommendation would be to just include that the height is a concern in the motion, but I don't think we have the right to put a restriction for the height.
I don't think we should put a restriction for the height to approve this project. That's in front of us today. But I do think the description of the condition should be such that it would cause the Board of Trustees to look at this very carefully at this point in time, rather than getting further down the road. We inherited the 100 feet by virtue of something that was done then. We now have a comprehensive plan. Now, can something be worked out? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying it's a concern that's being expressed up here. It's a legitimate concern that's being expressed. And I think the Board of Trustees should at least have the opportunity to address it.
When we present them with the project, and Debbie can speak to this as well, and we do the board memo, we note in that memo, not at length, but certainly any important discussion such as this. So your choice is a motion to approve with conditions, or deny. So what I'm saying is that the information and what you're trying to pass along to the board will be in the board memo as discussion, pretty much the only real serious discussion that has occurred tonight. It just doesn't have to be a condition for them to hear that. It would be in their board memo. And you want to speak to that, Debbie?
Yes. I could start emailing you. I don't know. You have the opportunity to look at the board memos when the board packet goes out for the Board of Trustees. But every board memo, I put every single one of your comments in the memo that was a concern of yours. So they're aware of, I don't give your specific name. I just say a commissioner had this concern or had that concern. And I put that in every board memo that I give to the board, just to let you know.
Okay, I hear what you say. I hear what the commissioners are saying. I'll ask the commissioners to make a recommendation, but personally, I believe if there's in our motion what this planning commission wants specifically for the Board of Trustees to hear, we put it in as a condition, not as a condition to deny, not denying, condition for approval, but to make sure that this issue gets full consideration consistent with what the commissioners. All right. So having said all that,
What, I'm sorry, if you, just hypothetical here, if you put a condition about the height, the height was already approved, so you can't put a condition about a height that was already approved.
I think the idea, or sorry, is we feeling that it's something that really it needs to be addressed or it needs to be discussed, concerns or have been presented. The condition, as soft as it might be, could be that the applicant and the board discuss and consider and review the 100-foot height limit. That's pretty soft. And that's something that as a comma or condition saying, we think it's so important that it's not just in the notes or the memo. It's instead, we've got an access issue that we'd like to have resolved. And then the other would be at least some discussion and consideration. I think that to me would satisfy on the condition side and it wouldn't jeopardize anything.
Nobody's talking about saying we don't or not, we're going to deny what has been presented to us today.
Right.
We're asking for 2 conditions related to it. Right?
That the developer consider alternative design options for any proposed building nearing the 100-foot height. Something like that.
Something like that. Yep.
Need a
Steve?
creator.
Any thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, Debbie's notes are sufficient for me. I don't think it has any teeth and I don't think it.
We don't have any teeth at all.
Right.
I mean, we're putting on dentures right now. That's just like, hey, board, we kind of care about this. Could you give it a little more time?
Yeah.
That's all.
And
I
the board
feel like.
specifically asked about your concerns during the meeting.
Part
They
of the
always
reason
ask.
that every time I vote, I give an explanation of why I'm voting is so that will be on the record. And,
Right.
and, I guess you got to assume that they're going to read those things. I mean, I hate to mess up a motion with something that doesn't really have any kind of impact on anything. But
Well,
I hear your concern. I do. I'm going to make a motion without it, and you guys can do with it what you want.
Mhm.
Because the only really issue that I have right now is the access. I mean, I have an issue with the height, but they have a right to build stuff, so I can't really take that away from them either. So I'll make a motion regarding the easement, and we'll see where it goes.
Before you do, Steve,
Yeah.
I'm just going to say I have a great concern about this, but hearing how our concerns are brought forward, I'm not about to fall on my sword over that right now of it not being as part of the condition. So I personally am prepared to second or vote for a motion that doesn't have it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion then. I, Commissioner Steve King, move that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Falcon Commerce Filing 1 PDPSP 2020-543 based on the staff report findings that the proposed development complies with all the standards and criteria for approval with the following condition: that the property owned by another entity to the northwest that currently has access off of the proposed Squadron Road be allowed to maintain access to his property through an easement to be decided between both property owners.
second. Do I hear a second?
I second that motion.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Yes. Commissioner Sean White,
Yes. Approve.
Commissioner Steve King,
Okay, so now I'm going to make my comment. So to get this on record, everyone here is concerned about the building height of 100 feet. And just to put this on record that we do have that concern, we would like the Board of Trustees to look at that in the future on future parcels and come to some kind of agreement, if possible, with the landowners to minimize that to whatever extent. And with that, I'll vote yes.
Commissioner, oh,
Did he vote?
yeah, he just voted.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Commissioner Martin Trujillo,
Yes.
Co-commit Chairman Chris Wilhelmy,
Yes, with the reference to Commissioner Steve King's comments concerning the 100-foot height.
and then Chairman Daniel Orth.
I would vote, except I would like to add to Steve King's comments that this planning commission members in our discussion considers the 100-foot height to be inconsistent with the comprehensive plan as we now have, which was built subsequently to the 1989 or whenever it was, but giving that full consideration that it's inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, that they do due diligence to try to resolve the matter to bring the distance down. I vote yes.
Has been approved. 5-0.
Okay. Okay, I'll open up for public comment on any non-agenda items. Do we have any? Do we have a hand? Okay. Thank you, Andrea. No, no hands? Okay, then I will close the public comment for non-agenda items. Reports and communications. Commissioners, any reports or communications?
No, but you guys want to have a discussion about this 100-foot height? And Larry's going to probably need to chime in on this. Okay, so there are rights on property that you can have, like, for example, I forget what the name of the other property that's down in this area that just got 400 and something units approved. Okay, they had 400 and something units approved, but they had 100 acres of space that was unbuildable. That's not our problem, right? So they allowed 415 units or whatever the number is, but they didn't have all buildable acres. So they come in with 415 units, but they came in with 37-foot wide lots. And we don't have to give them 37-foot wide lots. It's not our problem that they can't build on 100-foot or they can't build on 100 acres. So there are other things in redoing our current zoning in the town. There are other things that can be done, like, for example, to restrict height. So you can have shadow issues. You can have bulk planes. You can have setbacks. You can have all this stuff that doesn't affect what they have, right? But it does affect what they have. So depending upon how quickly people get things through and depending on how this plan ends up, it's like, okay, here's a good example. I was on Inglewood Planning Commission. I was a builder in Inglewood. I built a bunch of houses. They had 50 by 125-foot wide lots. And everything we did, we scraped houses, right? They couldn't figure out why we couldn't build, why they weren't getting duplexes built, because Denver was just to the north and Denver built a ton of duplexes and they were all 800,000 a side and everybody was making money and Inglewood just got left out of all that. But the problem was they had a bulk plane and the bulk plane was super restrictive. So a 2-story house on a 50-foot wide lot could go 33 feet wide. So a duplex makes that 16 feet. How do you have a 16-foot wide house, right? So nothing could get built, even though it was zoned for it. And they couldn't understand why it wouldn't. Part of the reason I joined the planning commission was because I was building and we couldn't build. And we finally got that bulk plane changed. Took 8 years to get it changed. But we finally got it changed, and now they're building duplexes all over the place, which is what they wanted, right? It was zoned for it. It was legal. You could do it, but you couldn't do it. And if there's other things with, like I said, with setbacks and bulk planes, and I don't know how this plan's all going to come out, but I'm just saying there are other alternatives that you can do and not take rights away from people. Do you agree with that, Larry?
Well, the one you're talking about with regard to shadow obviously was a concern in New York City a long time ago. And that's why you see buildings that go up a certain height and then they shrink in footprint, and then they go up a little more and they shrink again. That's why you see those buildings, is to allow air and light into the streets below when you have those back to back next door to each other, filling up a block. So there's validity to looking into that. With regard to the density that we're going to have here, I'm not sure it's going to be applicable, because what I said, typically it's applied to an urban area like in downtown New York City. In this case, I don't see 100-foot buildings being close enough together to cause that kind of concern in this particular development anyway.
Right.
The main thing is in New York City, you've got a 100-foot building, say, but that 100-foot building has 6 levels of parking underground. Whereas here, the likelihood of that is minimal, particularly with the groundwater. And the likelihood of a 100-foot building being a motel, a hotel, that's a lot of parking, leaving a lot of space where that shadow situation would not be considered an impact.
Right.
The shadow is probably not a tool, but bulk plane could be a tool, and there may be other tools.
Well, bulk plane would be a shadow tool.
Yeah.
Really. I don't know. I'm just saying if there might be other alternatives.
Well, we have consultants working on our behalf right now. Is that something that should be teed up to them?
As fast as everything's coming in here,
No.
I don't know if they'd be ready for that. And I don't know if there's anything that they can do. I'm just saying you can.
You mean for the land development code rewrite to have it in there? Is that you're referring to?
Right.
Yep. Yeah, they haven't gotten to that chapter yet. As you know, we haven't received that chapter yet. But when we do, we're definitely going to comment about that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's because it's a problem when you take something away from somebody, especially a town like Monument that can't really defend itself. I mean, it's a giant lawsuit, and I wouldn't want to be a part of that. Not that I'd be personally a part of it, but I don't want to put the town of Monument in that position.
Right.
But I think that there may be other things that can be done that don't take rights away, but restrict what you can do. And it's probably a question for these consultants.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here thinking what other aspects of the code could be modified that would result in limiting the height. And I'm drawing a blank at the moment. But these are consultants that write code, so
Correct.
Right.
I think that'd be a worthwhile thing to ask if they can come up with some tools.
And again, this isn't targeting. It's really just saying our comprehensive plan focuses on small town feel, focuses on other things. We have some tension or conflict between what is allowed for land use. What other things can be brought to the table to possibly mitigate that, triage it, keep it consistent with the plan?
And whose zoning code allowed 100-foot in this area? Is that the county's?
Yeah, it was a county. It was called PIP was the zoning and industrial. What was the PI? I forgot what it stood for now. Yeah, we've never heard of it before.
Actually, it was PIP in the town when it was annexed.
Oh, it was PID and then it was PIP?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the fact that that would have existed, what, the 70s, 80s, whenever that code was originally written, who thought that was an okay idea?
It never happened.
Yeah. Well,
No,
yeah.
I hear you. I hear you.
It might,
But-
I don't think one of the 500 residents here at that time probably were concerned. They might have preferred a job over that issue.
Yeah.
Particularly since they didn't live on that side
Mhm.
of Highway 25.
They're all clustered there.
Steve, you're still working with them on the codes, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
So will you see that that gets addressed?
I've been thinking about it anyway. So yeah, I'd like for it to get.
Yeah, we just haven't gotten to that chapter yet with the code.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
In the code rewrite, I know we can't apply a new code and take away a right that they had when they bought it. But does our new code have limitations on height?
We're barely into it. We're in chapter 4.
Okay.
So yeah.
But is that
It
what you're
cannot
thinking?
implement until it's passed by the board. So
Sure.
since this was approved for 100 feet, you can't, like you said, you
I
can't take it away.
retroactively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But going forward,
Yes.
as we apply the zoning, I'd like to see a zoning that is consistent with what we feel the
Yeah.
comprehensive plan is.
Yes, once it's the land development code's approved by the board, going forward, we will be using that. But as of now, we can't. So,
Right.
yeah.
Obviously. Yeah.
Okay, anything
No,
else from?
that's a good discussion, Steve. I'm glad you brought that up, and I hope we can come up with some unique tools that maybe can help mitigate this. I don't know if we can eliminate it, but we might be able to mitigate.
Right.
And I hope the market conditions prevail also that don't make it worthwhile to build a 100-foot.
Well, nobody's going to build an office building right now. I mean,
It's a popular area.
yeah, but everybody works at home, so.
Yeah, I hate to leave it.
They tend to group together, Northgate.
Yeah.
So
Okay. That the commission's discussion,
All I got.
staff?
We're debating if we have an October meeting. As of now, we are, if everything comes together okay with the project. And October is National Planning Month, and staff would like to bring a treat to thank the planning commissioners for all their work. And I just want to ask if anyone has any allergies, just in case, whatever I bring. Okay, thank you.
That's it on staff, okay. So the next meeting. Let me get right agenda here. I got the wrong agenda in front of me.
October 14th is the next meeting.
Is October 14th. Okay. And with that being said, ready for adjournment?
Yeah.
Okay, adjourn the meeting.